Welcome to Okaloosa Eye on Crime and happy 2025, and we're going to jump right in.
That's right, and we're going to start out with our first case, which OCSO investigators are still seeking information in a 35-year-old disappearance of a Fort Walton Beach teenager. Now, 13-year-old Andrea Durham vanished from her family's Ocean City apartment near Fort Walton Beach 3.5 decades ago, and investigators are still searching for answers. Now, Andrea was home alone on the evening of February 1st back in 1990. When her mother and sister returned home from a meeting, they found Andrea's purse and all her personal belongings inside, but Andrea was gone. Now, investigators say nothing was out of place. There were no signs of a struggle. Many leads have come in over the years, but none have provided any solid leads in the case. The investigation into Andrea's disappearance remains an open missing persons investigation at the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office. And now this case was actually featured on the national podcast, The Deck, last year. If you want to learn more about this case, and it actually interviewed Andrea's sister as well, you can go to thedeckpodcast.com. And of course, anybody that has any information can contact Crime Stoppers.
Next up, the Fort Walton Beach Police Department is still searching for clues in a 2020 homicide. Happened back on January 6, 2020 at around 10 in the morning. The Fort Walton Beach Police Department discovered the body of 52-year-old Erin Elizabeth Hines in a vacant lot located at 4 Maple Street. The District 1 Medical Examiner's Office ruled the cause of death was multiple blunt traumatic injuries, and Erin was believed to be homeless at the time. So Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers in this case is offering a reward of up to $3,000 for any information that leads to the identification and arrest of suspect or suspects involved in that case.
And the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office is also seeking information in a 2020 homicide investigation. Now, deputies responded to 216 Hickory Street near Fort Walton Beach at about 7:45 on the evening of December 15th back in 2020. They found 28-year-old Kreskin Robinson inside a vehicle in the driveway of the residence, and he was dead from an apparent gunshot wound. Now, anybody with information on the shooting, of course, can contact the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office, or remember, you can contact call 863-TIPS, go to emeraldcoastcrimestoppers.com, or you can send a mobile tip via the P3 Tips mobile app.
Moving now to a cold case, cold in the manner of going back to 1973. Teresa Dusevich was just 19 years old when someone took her life and left her body in a wooded area on the Eglin Reservation off Highway 285. She disappeared after leaving her home in Valparaiso in November of 1973. Her body was found November 21st, and she had a gunshot wound to the head as well as blunt force trauma to the back of her head. So more than 50 years later, this case remains unsolved, but that doesn't mean someone out there might not know something about it. So any information, contact the OCSO 651-7400 or Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers 863-TIPS.
We're going to wrap it up with a more current case, and that's the Crestview Police Department trying to identify a car burglar. And yes, we realize these aren't the best photos, but they're hoping someone can help identify this individual. Referenced multiple vehicles that were burglarized and damaged on the evening of December 5th or early morning hours of December 6th last year at Country Inn and Suites in Crestview. It looks like he's a white male, was wearing a light colored pants, a camo hoodie, and black gloves. It's also believed he may be responsible for similar incidents at surrounding hotels in Crestview. So anybody with information, you can contact Crestview PD or, of course, Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers. And now, if you're wondering if Crime Stoppers work, just listen to these 2024 statistics. So we had 1,203 tips in 2024, led to 47 arrests, and helped us clear 57 cases for our local law enforcement partners. And our board of directors, our civilian board of directors, approved nearly $20,600 in rewards. And an interesting fact is only about 22% of those rewards were actually ever picked up or claimed. So a lot of folks are just wanting to provide their information but don't necessarily want the monetary reward. However, it is there if you need it. In February of 1996, the serial killer known as the Happy Face Killer told an OCSO investigator he was responsible for killing a Jane Doe in 1994 and dumping her body in Okaloosa County. And despite decades of effort, the woman's identity remained a mystery. But that all changed in March of 2023, and OCSO senior investigator Kelly Henderson is one of the primary reasons, along with investigator Aaron Pittman, the medical examiner's office, and a private genetic genealogy company based in Texas. And investigators Henderson and Pittman recently traveled to a huge conference to share their work with counterparts from across the country. And she is joining us to talk about the breakthrough and what others can learn from it. So tell me, Investigator Henderson, how identifying the victim after all these years came about.
So our medical examiner's office was attending a conference where they learned about Othram. They came back and collectively decided to send our case to the Othram to further test for DNA.
So they basically picked our case to be the one that sent. That's great.
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
So you and others actually went to Oregon State Penitentiary to meet with the self-admitted serial killer Keith Jesperson. Can you kind of tell us about that visit?
We did, yes. Myself and my partner, Investigator Pittman, along with FDLE Special Agent and the Assistant State Attorney who was assigned to the case, all traveled to Oregon. We made contact with Mr. Jesperson unannounced. He had no idea we were coming, and sat down and really just had a conversation with him. I mean, it was an interview, but it was a conversation where he provided details and information that some we knew about, some we learned.
And now what was the outcome of that visit?
So he confessed to killing Suzanne Schellenberg. He explained details again, some that we knew from previous investigators, others that we learned, and told us his reasoning why. And then we later worked out a plea deal where he has pled to guilty to a life sentence for Suzanne Schellenberg's murder.
And now he was already serving 7 life sentences.
That is
already,
correct.
so yeah. Mm-hmm. And now you and others recently traveled to a large conference out in Texas to do a presentation on this happy face killer case. I believe it was called Jane Doe, the Jane Doe case. Can you tell us, first of all, who was at that conference, and just tell us a little bit about what the presentation entailed?
Yes, so several homicide investigators from around the nation attended. There was hundreds in attendance, again, from all states. I believe every state was represented.
Wow.
By homicide investigators. And our purpose was to obviously give a debrief of the case itself, but also to point out how important, or the importance of having your relationships with your state attorney's offices, your adjacent agencies, your medical examiner's office, because had we not had that working relationship from the beginning to the end, I don't know that we would have the outcome that we have. The medical examiner's office took it upon themselves to pick our case. So I strongly contribute that to the relationship that we have, and that we have such a great working relationship, and the importance of being able to get closure for those families and those victims because of that working relationship.
Right, and this was decades in the making for Suzanne Schellenberg's family to get closure, and she was the last known victim of Keith Jesperson as well. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and it also has to be rewarding for everyone who worked so hard in this case. And how did that feel to check that box for you?
It really didn't hit me until I had contact with the family. We work investigations day in and day out, but when you are able to speak to somebody who, I was just a child when this happened, so to be able to speak to a family member who has lived with this their entire life and not known, in this case her brother, not known where his sister has been all these years, and to be able to, although it's sad, but to be able to give him that closure, I mean, it's an unbelievable feeling. Absolutely.
So everyone from OCSO investigator Glenn Barbary in the 1990s to you, and of course Investigator Aaron Pittman, the FDLE, the State Attorney's Office, and Othram, the genealogy company that tracked the victim's DNA, and of course the District 1 Medical Examiner's Office deserve kudos for persistence, hard work, and success, and that is some fantastic teamwork, and we thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And we're going to go down our first list of wanted fugitives. We want to remind you they're wanted as of today's taping date, January 16th, 2025. First up is a new face. It's Corderick Markeith Brown, and he's being sought by the Crestview Police Department for felony failure to appear for second-degree murder, as well as VOP for robbery, last known to live on Anderson Drive in Fort Walton Beach.
Next up is a Walton County Sheriff's Office case. Robert Carlos Cruz is wanted for felony violation of probation, but his last known address was in Panama City.
43-year-old Paul Austin Greiner is being sought by the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office for felony sexual assault, last known to live on Landview Drive in Fort Walton Beach.
Trying to track down Rene Izquierdo Lopez, 47 years old, and he's wanted for sexual battery on a victim under 12 years of age, as well as lewd and lascivious molestation.
Here's 32-year-old Timothy Tyler Turner, who's wanted for felony sexual battery and lewd and lascivious molestation, last known to live on Red Barrow Road up in Baker.
And here we have Clint Wayne Covey. Covey is wanted for felony failure to appear on 2 counts of battery on an officer or firefighter.
And Walton County deputies are searching for 29-year-old Carlos Hernandez Espinol for felony violation of probation.
Here's another new one. Patrick Todd Cannon, wanted for felony theft. Cannon's last known address was on Fetting Avenue in Fort Walton Beach.
And this is one that's been on the show for a while. It's 36-year-old Ann Margaret Mary Marsh. She's wanted for failure to appear for theft as well as elderly abuse, last known to live on Madeline's Path in Fort Walton Beach.
And call in your tip if you know where to find Richard Zachary Wagner. He's wanted for felony failure to appear and an order revoking his bond for possession of a weapon by a convicted felon ×3, possession of drug paraphernalia, a traffic violation, failure to appear for a traffic violation, and aggravated battery.
Long list there. Next up is 62-year-old Denise Evelyn Freites. She's wanted for felony violation of probation for DUI, fleeing and eluding law enforcement, and possession of a controlled substance.
And this is 59-year-old Lincoln Anthony Ricketts. Ricketts is wanted for felony failure to appear for driving with a license that had been suspended or revoked with prior convictions, as well as resisting arrest without violence and giving a false ID to law enforcement.
Alonzo Borum, who was last known to live on Shrewsbury Road in Mary Esther, he's wanted for felony failure to appear for fleeing and eluding law enforcement, resisting arrest without violence, possession of a controlled substance, and possession of narcotics equipment.
We'd love to be able to find Rogelio de la Cruz Rasquero. He's wanted for felony possession of child pornography and use of a two-way communication device to facilitate a felony, last known to live in Crestview.
On World Day of Remembrance for Road Traffic Victims, a special event took place in Mary Esther to honor those who lost their lives on roadways and to talk about strategies to protect pedestrians.
There were plenty of advocates for safer roads, family members of victims, law enforcement, firefighters, and some local leaders were on hand.
Every year on the third Sunday of November, the world unites to solemn reflection and determination on World Day of Remembrance for Road Traffic Victims. This global observance honors the memory of millions who have lost their lives or have been gravely injured on our roads, while acknowledging the profound suffering endured by victims, their families, and entire communities. A part of the reason why I'm here and why I participate in World Day of Remembrance is because on October 24th of 2003, while my husband and I were 9 months pregnant and we were married a year and 5 days, he was unfortunately killed in a traffic collision where a driver ran a red light. He was killed instantly, and my brother was also in that crash, and he was the driver. It was not his fault. He remains debilitated today.
I want to say thanks to all of you for coming. It means the world to me from the bottom of my heart. This is not only to honor my son Joshua, but it's also to honor Shelley, Pat Locke, and all the others from Okaloosa County and the state of Florida that have been killed or injured in roadside safety. The death of one's own child is devastating, or any other family member. I have been trying to make a difference in Florida.
My work focuses on traffic safety. My job involves helping law enforcement participate in traffic safety campaigns and helping them get the resources they need to do their job effectively. And I'm passionate about this mission and this work that I do because I've seen both sides. I've seen the lives saved through proactive enforcement and the efforts of law enforcement, and I've also seen the effect on families when we're unable to save lives. So today we remember those that we've lost, honor their memory by recommitting ourselves to the mission of making our roads safer. And to the families, Ida, Melissa, know that your loved ones aren't forgotten.
As a chief of police, I'm here to deliver a clear message. Traffic safety is everyone's responsibility. Pedestrian deaths, in particular, have surged to the highest level in 40 years. These are not just statistics, they are lives. We all must slow down, put our phones away. Passengers must speak up, if they see drivers acting recklessly. Pedestrians must prioritize safe use of sidewalks, stay visible, and remain alert. And if you see a dangerous road condition, you need to report them. We can only solve this problem together. Traffic and pedestrian safety is not just a police or government issue, it is a community issue.
Every year, thousands of lives are lost and impacted by pedestrian-related accidents. These incidents remind us of the importance of creating a culture of awareness and responsibilities both to pedestrians and drivers. Here are some of the mitigating things that we can do to mitigate these risks. For pedestrians, always use crosswalks and obey traffic signals. Stay alert and avoid distractions like texting while walking. Wear bright and reflective coloring at night and increase your visibility. For drivers, always yield to pedestrians, especially at crosswalks. Drive within the speed limits, particularly in school zones and residential areas.
Drivers, passengers, and pedestrians alike. We all share the roadway and we all share the duty to keep it safe.
And now we're going to head to our second list of wanted fugitives we're hoping we can help law enforcement find. And first up is 22-year-old John William Galveo Saab. He's actually wanted for first-degree premeditated murder in the shooting death of a 48-year-old Fort Walton Beach man back on March 17th of 2021 in Capri Commons Mobile Home Park. He had an address on Patio Road in Fort Walton Beach prior to the murder, but left the area shortly afterwards, and investigators have been unable to locate him. So if you know, give us a call.
Yep, and they haven't given up, that's for sure.
Nope.
Let me see if I can butcher this name. Ajaya Yaman G or Gee, 24 years old, wanted by the Walton County Sheriff's Office for felony violation of probation, last known to live in Pace.
And a new addition to the show this month is 40-year-old Daniel Lee Baker. He's wanted for felony fleeing and eluding law enforcement at a high rate of speed, as well as failure to appear for possession of a controlled substance, last known to live on Yorktown Circle in Fort Walton Beach.
And contact Crime Stoppers if you have any information on David Allen Simmons. He's wanted by the Walton County Sheriff's Office for felony violation of probation and was last known to live over on State Highway 83 in Defuniak Springs.
25-year-old Oswaldo Avalos Camacho, who was last known to live on Williams Court in Fort Walton Beach. He's wanted for felony failure to appear for aggravated battery with a deadly weapon.
And we can tell you that Keon Kenneth Cooper has been located since last show.
But we're still looking for 38-year-old Casey Scott Dishman for felony failure to appear for resisting arrest without violence, possession of a controlled substance with intent to sell, as well as other narcotics charges.
Richard Kelly Harrison was last known to live in Milton, and he is wanted for felony fraud.
Here's 72-year-old Donald Joe Mitchell, who's being sought for DUI and driving while license suspended or revoked, last known to live over in Navarre.
Charles Earl Boykin is wanted for felony failure to register as a sexual offender.
Walton County deputies are looking for 42-year-old Bradley Scott Weinheimer for felony violation of probation.
Also still trying to track down Tad Keith Bowers. Bowers is 54 and he's wanted for VOP on an original charge of child neglect.
We don't have a photo of Jermaine Allen Hawkins, but he's a 45-year-old black male, and he's wanted for felony fraud.
Again, no photo available either for Carol Hardy. Hardy's 66 years old, white female, wanted for felony exploitation of an elderly person. Last known address was on Wilson Street in Crestview.
And we can remove Casey Lynn Spires because she has been located since our last show.
But still looking for Clenny Terrell Davis, wanted for felony VOP for aggravated battery with a deadly weapon as well as grand theft. Last known address Auburn Road in Crestview.
24-year-old Christian Devontae Nix is wanted for felony failure to appear for fleeing and eluding law enforcement, operating a vehicle without a license, and destroying evidence. Last known to live on 4th Avenue in Shalimar.
And searching for Jamal Darius Ferguson, wanted for felony fleeing and eluding, possession of a weapon by a convicted felon, and resisting an officer. His last known address was Lakeview Drive in Crestview. 41-year-old
David Michael Williams, who's wanted for felony violation of probation for multiple counts of grand theft, theft from the elderly, and fraud, last known to live on John Sims Parkway in Niceville.
And contact Crime Stoppers if you've got any info on Jonathan Christian Wolf. Unfortunately, we don't have a photo available, but he is a 51-year-old white male who's wanted for felony fleeing and eluding.
31-year-old Brennan Shane Dickinson, who was last known to live on Harmony Lane in Crestview. He's wanted for felony possession of a weapon or ammo by a convicted felon, burglary, larceny, and violation of probation.
And this is Angela Dawn Tripp. Tripp's wanted for failure to appear for exploitation of the elderly, last known to live on Crown Creek Circle in Crestview.
And wrapping up this list is 30-year-old Tyler Earl Noel Hazelrig. He's wanted for felony failure to register as a sexual offender, last known to live on 23rd Street in Niceville. Well, the generosity and giving spirit of Okaloosa County were on full display during the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office and Okaloosa County School District's joint Angel Tree program for local kids over the holidays.
And you know, whether it was businesses or organizations or school resource officers and other employees, as well as you had guidance counselors, you had military members stepping up. Basically, there was a lot of teamwork for people who contributed, and it equated to the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office and Okaloosa County School District being able to provide gifts for 315 kids in our community.
And we want to shout out a massive thank you to all who contributed, from donating gifts to wrapping them to distributing them. It was the magic of Christmas caring that made this heartwarming project such a success, and we are incredibly grateful for the community response.
That's for sure. Moving on to fugitives now. We've got Dara Suzanne Giancola next up on the list, and she's wanted for felony failure to appear for leaving the scene of an accident with DUI and injury or property damage, as well as bribery of a public official and resisting arrest without violence.
Next up is a new one to the show. 61-year-old Clenny Terrell Davis, wanted for felony violation of probation for aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, as well as grand theft, last known to live on Auburn Road up in Crestview.
Law enforcement's also looking for Jania Thompson, 28-year-old black female, wanted for felony failure to appear for attempting to flee or elude law enforcement and operating a motor vehicle that is without a valid license. Thompson's last known address was Ataka Trail in Crestview.
And Walton County deputies are searching for 33-year-old Jeffrey Blake Shaw for felony violation of probation.
Next up, no picture available, but looking for Lacomerique Troutman, 25-year-old black female wanted by the Crestview PD for felony aggravated battery, last known address Bel Air Drive in Crestview.
We do have a picture of 51-year-old Stephen Richard Arp. He's wanted for felony failure to appear for use a computer to solicit a child and use of a two-way communication to facilitate a felony.
We don't have a pic, though, for Jerome Daniel Mason. Mason's a 40-year-old white male. He's wanted for felony fraud and exploitation of the elderly.
And here's 45-year-old Scott Daniel Sconyers, who's being sought for violation of probation for DUI and fleeing and eluding, last known to live in Destin.
33-year-old Anthony Michael Fridelli is wanted for VOP for grand theft, trafficking in stolen property, and providing false info to a pawnbroker.
Todd Wilson Inman, who was last known to live on Henry Lane in Mossy Head, he's wanted for felony violation of probation for driving while license suspended or revoked, passing or forged notes, and possession of a controlled substance, providing false information to a pawnbroker, and finally, grand theft.
Also trying to track down Brandon Dalton West. No photo available of Brandon, but he's a 33-year-old white male who's wanted for sexual assault.
56-year-old Donald Lee Chapman is wanted for felony violation of probation for leaving the scene of an accident, attempting to flee law enforcement, driving while license suspended or revoked, as well as resisting an officer, last known to live on Evergreen Drive in Mary Esther.
Tyrone Frost's last known address was on Nellie Drive in Santa Rosa Beach, and Frost is wanted for felony VOP for burglary.
And I don't know if I'll say this right, but Mayeek Jamal Boyd is wanted for felony violation of probation for grand theft and dealing in stolen property. He's also wanted for non-payment of child support, last known to live on Long Drive in Crestview.
And this is Alyssa Victoria Hibberts. Hibberts is wanted for VOP for child neglect and possession of cocaine. Last known address was in Pensacola.
82-year-old J. William Shutter is wanted for felony child neglect.
And 35-year-old Jose Alberto Hernandez Cruz is also wanted for 2 counts of child neglect, as well as for failure to appear for GUI. His last known address was Airport Road in Destin.
48-year-old Cameron Emmanuel Sanders is wanted for felony fleeing and eluding law enforcement, driving while license suspended or revoked, and resisting arrest, last known to live on Lark Street in Fort Walton Beach.
And take a look at John Darwin Guessford. He's wanted for felony VOP for possession of a controlled substance and possession of drug paraphernalia.
30-year-old Cheyenne Lee Gentry is wanted for violation of probation for possession of methamphetamine, last known to live on Oak Terrace Drive in Crestview.
And we have James Clinton Brinkley Jr. up next. Brinkley's wanted for VOP on a charge of battery.
54-year-old Gabrielle Wade Manley is wanted for felony violation of probation for used two-way communication device to facilitate a felony, as well as possession of a controlled substance with intent to sell.
And we're going to wrap up this list with Zachary Ryan Steen. Steen's wanted for felony aggravated battery with a weapon. Last known address was Old Ferry Road in Shalimar.
And as we do every spring, Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers has now confirmed the date for our annual fundraiser, Crawfish Boil. And that is going to be April 26th. So please mark your calendars, and of course be sure to check our website and all of our social media for upcoming information about the event, as well as sponsorship information. But we're looking forward to another successful event.
And just around the corner too. And that's going to do it for our first show of 2025. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.